I'm going to hand over to Simone, who's going to sort of drive this session, and I'm just going to pitch in as and when. Simone, do you want to take over?
Thank you. As a journalist, as a features editor, as someone who has had to put together far too many features on style, homewares, Christmas presents, you name it, I wish more people, more designer makers, more people who are behind the products would actually get in touch themselves, rather than large-scale PR companies and marketing companies. If you caught the session before, for instance, Dan Bartram from VMC Accessories, they've just dusted down 4 knitting machines, which were put into retirement. They had to make everyone redundant in Leek who ran them, but recently, just last year, they started making their own beanies, so end to end. And when Dan was talking, one of the really catchy things as a journalist was that in the 4 weeks that they can be commissioned and then actually deliver the beanies, that's shorter than the 5 weeks on water time it takes to get those beanies from China to the UK. That as a story, for a journalist, is gold, absolute gold dust. Find another couple of people who are doing something similar, and you really have a great story for journalists. So you and your product is the fascinating thing, and not enough people focus on the story. They focus on the price or on the colour, and publications are all about stories. So, when you approach journalists, and I appreciate that we can be a scary and terrifying and rude, very rude bunch, it can be very tough to know exactly how to get in touch most effectively. So, please email. Most publications had massive rounds of redundancies over and over again. You might have heard something about the publishing crash and the rise of the internet. So if you drop an email in your subject line, just quickly say products for Christmas or locally sourced slate, something like that, just to get our attention. Get straight to the point. If there's any more than 4 paragraphs in an email, short paragraphs, it's not going to be read. Get straight to the point. Hi, hope you're well, and then get into it. Make it specific to the publication. The biggest mistake that anyone makes when pitching to any publication is they just do blanket emails. They'll send the same email to the Daily Mail as they will to the Sunday Times style section, as they will to The Guardian or The List. That's not going to work. You need to read the publication cover to cover, and you need to constantly, you need to chase up your emails, be persistent and polite, follow up the same email, just reply again, and hi, hope you're well, sure you're terribly busy, just wanted to check if you'd received this and if it was appropriate for anything you might have coming up. If that doesn't work, try a third time. Hi, hope you're well. I really think that this product's perfect for your publication, but if it isn't, please let me know, as next week I'm going to be sending it on to insert 2 of their competitors. There's nothing that will get a journalist moving more quickly if they think they're about to lose a story. Polite, you understand how busy they are, you understand how important, but just ask for a yes or no. Just ask if it's not right, will it be right? Is there a better time to email you? Otherwise, 3 times, move on.
Just adding to the email thing, I probably get about 500 emails a day, and usually the first hour of my day is spent sort of filing it and either ditching the ones that are no good or the ones that are around for later, putting them into a folder. So I've got folders on my desktop, October, Christmas, next Easter, and I don't always, I often scan the email and think, yeah, that's great, I'll save that for later. What's quite handy is in the subject matter to actually put green cushions from Habitat, because I'll be like, oh God, there were some green cushions, who are they from? All those names are from Habitat, and where is it? And I can't remember the name of the person. It's quite easy, I obviously then do a search. So having all the key information in the subject matter, because that's the bit you search for, really becomes useful, because then I don't lose it. Because it's very easy to then have a file for October, which is like, it's got 500 emails in it as well. But if the subject line says something like, hi, that's no use to me.
You're going to lose it.
So it's just thinking about things like that.
Just be literal.
Yeah.
Don't be afraid. Don't be clever. We're too tired. We live off intravenous coffee. We don't have time for clever. Be literal, be short, be concise. I said this, I'm pretty much going to say this in every single slide. Read the publication. Don't waste your time and don't waste the publication's time by asking them to feature your product if you don't know their publication, if you haven't read it. So read the publication, read it cover to cover. You don't have to read every word. Scan it, see the tone, see how they feature products, see what information they require. Do they require a website? Do they require a website where you can buy that product? Do they require the cost? Do they require where it's from? You need that information to hand, and that house style will be different to every publication. Watch, if you're pitching for any of the YouTube channels, which is always very smart, try and get to product placement, watch it, see how they use it, so that you can, in your email, in your pitch, give them an example of, I think this would be perfect for. If you do want any templates, we've got a couple of examples of perfect email approaches and perfect press releases. So if you give me your card afterwards, I'll send you some examples of what journalists wish that people would just send to save some time. Know what sort of articles articles or pieces the publications feature. Do they do lots of top tens? Probably. Do they do one gorgeous item a month? Do they do 4 pages of Father's Day gifts? What kind of articles do they do? Do they do big pieces on the provenance of a product where they tell the story? Do they do a Q&A with the person who made it? Have a look, see how they feature their products, and then when you're doing your pitch, you will say, I think this might be perfect for this section, which I love, by the way. Don't forget to kind of do an ever so casual aside to, I loved that piece you did on that vase 2 months ago. I thought that was fantastic. Suck up to journalists. We people like a little bit of flattery every now and then. It doesn't happen very often.
Yeah. No, I was just going to say to that. I've forgotten what I was going to say to that, actually. But one thing is also about the knowing the publication. Quite often people say, oh, this will be great for you, but nobody knows the publication better than the editors on the publication, and so it's quite off-putting for somebody to say, we think this is absolutely right up your street, when it often isn't. I think there's no point pitching to Vogue, for example, if you don't have a luxury high-end product. No matter how much you would love to be in Vogue, if it's not right for them, they're just going to ditch it straight away. One good way of telling how a magazine pitches itself is also to look at the advertising. If they have high-end perfume, if they have cars, if it's sort of luxury handbags, that sort of thing, and your company specialises in sort of, you're a budget or a value-driven company, you're probably not right for them.
Definitely. You can always ask for marketing. I never understand why people don't ask for marketing packs. Get in touch, ask for their marketing pack, and they drop keywords. How they it's often quite hilarious, but how they wish to be perceived versus how you might perceive them might be a little bit different. But they'll give you keywords to their demographic, their target audience, the key advertisers, and you'll see whether it's appropriate for them or not. There are lots of publications that will do the high-end product versus the cheap and cheerful product. So you can kind of pitch into that. But you need to also look out for the regular sections. As an editor, regular sections are the bane of your life. They're a great idea at the time. Oh, every week we'll do a top 6 color things, or top 6 trendy things, or top 6 chairs or something. Is that my hair? Sorry, lots of hair. And you think it's great. After 6 weeks, you want to kill yourself. You're just like, I can't do anything. I can't think of anything interesting to say about this or come up with a new column. So those regular bits of furniture, the regular ones, if you can pitch into those, they'll be kissing your feet.
I remembered what I was going to say, which was know what those regulars are, because I can't tell you how number of times I've had pitches saying, oh, I think this would be great for a tried and tested column. We don't have a tried and tested column. So you clearly haven't read the magazine. There's nothing more off-putting when you're trying to flatter somebody by knowing their product, and you clearly don't.
Websites. We do have Melanie Lissack talking about how to get onto a blogger's radar, product placement and so on. Is that
tomorrow?
Tomorrow?
No, it's Tuesday. Tuesday, yeah.
But don't overlook the websites. Whereas publications have limited space, increasingly fewer and fewer pages, websites and blogs for the same publications have unlimited space and they desperately need content. 80% of all briefs to advertising agencies I heard recently was for video. So if you were able to do a quick video of your studio with you talking for 10 seconds to camera or just showing the studio where the product was made, gold.
Content.
So you'd be able to do a Q&A, you'd be able to offer so much. So they are desperately short of content. If you can provide images for galleries, if you can provide a Q&A, if you can provide even a little video or get them to come and do a video, they'd be really grateful. And obviously the reach of websites via social media and so on is enormous. Photos, illustrations, pictures, images. Oh gosh, we need them. Our photographers were all made redundant a couple of years ago. We need them, and a good image could well be the difference between you getting your stuff featured or not. Please, for the love of God, don't send it high-res. We don't need 20 high-res images because the publications don't have that much space and yours will be the first thing to be deleted. So I suggest putting together, ideally a link, just a link to your website.
Dropbox. Or WeTransfer, something like that, where you can get hold of the high-res very quickly, because quite often what happens is the decision is made, and it's like, great, all the pictures, these are the stories that are happening. The art department, we need the high-res now, so the page can go through. And if you then have to make a phone call, and I need to I'll get back to you in 3 days with the high-res have to be available immediately through either an easy Dropbox or a quick WeTransfer.
With living, etc., for instance, are there ideal, if you were making glassware, what sort of photography would you commission, bearing in mind you wouldn't have a massive budget?
Ideally, people would supply the images, and we would like both a lifestyle and a cutout.
What does that mean?
A lifestyle image is a shot in situ, so it would be a shot of a glass on a lovely table with a background, maybe a gorgeous model holding it. Perhaps a Christmas scene with some candlelight, but a shot that's a product shot that focuses on the glassware. A cutout is shot against a white background, so it can be used as a dynamic shape on a page.
So they can actually just cut it out and stuff.
Yeah. We like both options because the art team like to have some shape on a page, but they also like to have what we also call square-ups or lifestyle shots, because they give a sort of sense of ambience as well. So that gives the page sort of a visual energy.
And finally, portrait or landscape? Or both?
Either.
Yeah.
I mean, landscape can be cropped. The interiors market tends to be landscapes because a lot of shots are room shots, and rooms tend to be wide. But often people do both options, and it doesn't matter. Depends what you've got.
Yep.
Yeah. Oh, I know something I was going to say about pictures and having them ready is part of the editing process, which you may not know, is that you have a remit for a page, for a news page, say, where you want some colour, you want some shape, you want something expensive, you might want a bit of fashion, you might want a bit of product, you might want a person with an interview, you might want a quote. So you want like 5 or 6 elements that tick various different boxes. You want a price range of sort of cheap to expensive, aspirational, throwaway, investment. So it's quite a tricky mix, and quite often, you even get to layout stage, and the editor will go.
So what's layout?
Layout is where the art department are creating a page with all the different products on it, and the editor will look at it and go, it's just not really glamorous. And then the art department will go, it's a bit brown, we need some shape. And then the editor also says, it's all a bit expensive. Well, if somebody sent across maybe a piece of jewellery that's got blue beads on it, and it's been shot as a cutout in the shape of a snake, and it's £25, and it's available now, hallelujah. You know what? You're going on the page. Because I'm going to press in half an hour, and you've made it.
Yeah.
For those very reasons that A, you fit my remit that I need now, and B, you're available. If I then phone you and go, oh, that's fantastic, that picture, and they go, yeah, we're actually having it shot properly next week, so we won't have a high res, and I haven't got a stockist yet, and price, I don't know how much it costs yet. you're no use to me, so I'm sorry. So having all those ducks in a row and having everything, and if it lands at the right time, you strike lucky.
It is amazing how often people will get in touch with this really fantastic story, this great idea, this great product, and they either fail to put their mobile number on it, or you call them 2 days later and they're on a holiday for 2 weeks. You need to be available. You need to have your images available. You need to, if you can't be available for interview, you need to have someone who's going to do so. Unfortunately, who will be able to be available. Unfortunately, when things move, they move very quickly, and they can literally move within an hour.
Yeah.
And so you need to be ready for that. So don't send a press release, don't send a pitch unless you're ready to go, because it can be surprising how quickly people will react.
Yeah.
They may not react for 6 months, but they may react in 6 minutes.
Yeah.
Or 4.
Yeah.
So in terms of timing is everything. And when it comes to Christmas, for instance, when should people, is it November maybe?
No, absolutely not. Christmas...
When do they pitch?
I would say the best time to pitch Christmas is probably August, because Christmas and July shows are happening now, and I'll be talking about that on Tuesday morning, about the Christmas trends. Little plug for myself. So Christmas, all the Christmas product is being shown to press now, and they will be going to press probably with their Christmas issues mid-October, so they hit the newsstands beginning of November. So they'll be producing them in September, so they'll be doing the planning in August. So you need to really start hitting the shopping editors with your Christmas gifts, and the style editors will be start talking sort of from about now right through to the middle of August.
No, you need
one of the questions, which is one of the most annoying questions, is the questions you get towards the end of August saying, what's your Christmas deadline? And usually it was last week. So, sorry.
You need to know. So, don't be afraid to call the receptionist. The receptionist or whomever will answer the phone. Part of their job is to tell people what the lead time is. Hi, I make glassware. I'm really interested in sending the style editor some examples of my work. How far ahead do you work? What are the lead times? It could be hourly. Some of the pages in the Guardian website do 2 rounds every day. And if they commission you, you've got 6 hours if they're being kind, so it moves quickly. Others are quarterly, and so you might actually have 3 or 4 months, but then they'll expect so much. Just know the lead time.
I've got a general rule of thumb, which there's no science behind it, but just if you look at the frequency, so think of a monthly magazine, it goes on sale October cover date. So it's covering sort of October-ish content, so sort of autumn, Halloween perhaps, wintry, starting to go into winter. October cover date will go on sale on the 1st of September, which means that that'll probably go to print 1st of August, because it takes a month for print and distribution to happen, which means it's being produced in July. So the latest you really should be pitching any October stories to the press would be the 1st of July. So July, August, September,
even,
October.
Yeah.
So that's about a 3-month deadline for lead time for a monthly magazine. For a weekly, probably 3 weeks, 3 to 4 weeks.
6 weeks features. We were working 6 weeks ahead.
News stories probably 3 weeks.
3 weeks.
And a daily, probably 5 days, I'd say.
Don't be afraid to go early,
No.
and then don't be afraid to send it 2 months later. So it's better to send something 6 months early, or 8 months early, and then follow it up 2 months later. You'll seed, and they'll start thinking. And then when you resend it, maybe a bit refreshed, you'll be there. But just be aware of lead times, because it'll be a real shame, because often it has to be such an incredible, unmissable event of a product for people to drop pages to include you, and I think it's happened twice in my entire career. So finally, don't forget the seasonal events, please. They happen every year, and every year you've got to come up with a new and exciting way to cover Valentine's Day, school holidays, Christmas, Easter. Anything that comes around year on year can be the bane of a journalist's life. So if you can come up with a new way or new suggestions, that's always really helpful.
I would also say to that, be very careful about some seasonal events, about thinking about what kind of publications cover them. Not many monthly glossies would cover Valentine's Day. Very few would cover Halloween. Halloween's probably a big market for food magazines and probably weeklies, because weeklies are looking for that kind of constant for a monthly, I don't think I've ever covered Halloween. Certainly, Valentine's is always a bit tricky as well because it can be seen as being a little bit down market. So doing it in a sort of a glossy way is quite tricky. Dailies, I think, and websites is not a problem because they're hungry for content. Christmas is huge for everybody. Easter, huge, I think, for sort of food and drink magazines because it's a big entertaining and cooking time. But just sort of be aware that not everybody would cover Easter, or look at the ways that what are the way that people would cover Easter.
Absolutely. Look at what they've done before. Just to start wrapping up, what would journalists really please, ideally, like you to include in your pitch? The elements are, and this is a quick activity, subject, angle, execution. I think journalists would pay people if people just thought to do this. The subject is obviously your product. So, for instance, Dan Buttram's beanies. The angle, for instance, it's part of a trend of things being made in Britain. So that's the angle. What's interesting about the subject? What angle are you taking on it? It could be that beanies are the go-to hat for all the trendy kids in Shoreditch, or now they're all the trendy kids in Manchester or Leek. The execution, this is where you wouldn't put my nose out of joint as an editor if you said, I've got this great idea it might work as a photo essay, the 10 best made in Britain beanies. It might work as a human interest story where the owner of VMC Accessories, it's a family business, 3 generations, who dusted off these knitting machines. You can see the photos already. It could work as a human interest story. There are lots of different ways that you could execute the subject and the angle. If you present that and say that, one, it shows you're thinking about the story. It's not just a please put my pretty thing on in a photo on a page in your magazine. It's actually showing that you understand that there's a story behind it. So subject, angle, execution, suggestions for these. They may not use it, and you're not going to say you should, but I wouldn't be offended if someone said, I think that this might make a really strong photo essay.
No, and also don't forget that editors are always hungry for ideas. So features editors are always saying, what else have you got, what else have you got, what else have you got? So if you can pitch an idea to a features editor that they can comfortably use in a meeting and pitch as their own, well, they're going to be really grateful for that, aren't they?
They might actually send you wine instead of sending them wine. Finally, keep it concise and short. You need no more than 4 paragraphs. If there's more than 150 words in that email, you've written too much. You just put your contact details, 1 sentence. What is the single most interesting thing about what it is you've got? You don't need to give the backstory. You don't need to go on and on. And if the press release is more than 2 pages, it shouldn't be more than a page. If it's more than 2 pages, it will not get read.
Hand on heart, I never read the second page. Sorry. If you haven't got me by the end of paragraph 1, I'm not going to go any further. So basically, keep all the information, like the biography of the designer and the history of the company, keep all that on the second page, because if somebody is going to use it, they will actually hang around to get that information. But generally, you want all the stuff. And actually, I'd add to that and say, make sure you put all the information there, and that includes the price. So often people pitch your product and I don't know whether they forget, or sometimes I think possibly it's a deliberate thing in order to force you to engage with them, to phone them and something. But it's the most irritating thing for me is to get a product which is, say I got those blue beads to go on the page and go to the editor, I've got the product we need, beads. And the first thing she goes, how much is it? How much are they? And it's like, I then look stupid because I haven't got the price. So, and then if people go, oh, well, yeah, get the price, or where's it available? The other thing she'll always say is, where's it from? Yep. Quite often they go, oh, it's just a website, is it? And it's like, well, no, actually, I think you'll find it's in John Lewis, or it's available from, nationwide. If you can have all that kind of information available in the pitch as well, so much the better.
It saves so much time, and it will come down to it. It is, people are often surprised how often the decision is made at the designer's desk, and it comes down to who's got the price, who's got the available from selected shops in and around Yorkshire. Here's an example. Here's the website. If that's ready to go, that goes.
Yeah.
So it's,
and the high res is in.
The high res is in. Looks great. Different options.
Yeah.
So I will send, if you do want examples of press releases, keep it short and simple. Do include biographies, do include all of that kind of information on the second page, because if they do want to go a bit more in depth, then they can. But the first page needs to be very short, very concise. Anything over, I think I once received a 7-page biography for a 7-page press release for Christmas pens, and we never featured the pen, but we certainly put the press release up, I'm afraid.
Yeah.
We thought it was quite funny.